From Eyewitness News, this is Newsmakers.
Welcome to Newsmakers. I'm Tim White. Earlier this week, my colleague Ted Nesi sat down with Governor Gina Raimondo in her office at the State House. The scheduled topic at hand was the ongoing and very public battle between gaming giant IGT and Twin River. But the interview was recorded the Monday after a weekend that saw two mass shootings that claimed the lives of more than 30 people. So the conversation with the governor began there.
Governor, thanks for sitting down with me.
Thank you for having me.
So I have a bunch of questions about the IGT deal, but I do want to start by asking about what happened over the weekend. First, a mass shooting in Texas, horrifying in and of itself, but then we get the news of a second mass shooting very soon after out in Ohio. I'm wondering, when you heard the news bulletin about that second attack, what went through your mind?
It's just horrible. You know, it's horrible. No matter how frequently it happens, every time, it's disturbing. And, you know, for me, I just keep wondering how many shootings have to happen before we can get together, take action, and ban these military-style weapons. It seems like every one of these shootings has the same pattern in that they all involve the high-capacity assault rifles. Let's ban them. Why? Why is it so easy to get your hands on them? This, from what we know, was premeditated. The person had these guns, they're easy to obtain, they're weapons that are designed to kill many, many people. Can't use them for hunting. You know, I've talked to the colonel of the state police, I've talked to gun owners, lawful gun owners. You can't use these weapons for hunting. They completely destroy the animal. So anyway, I'm frustrated that it takes, what's it going to take before we get together and do what we know will save lives?
So it sounds like it goes without saying, but you've tried to ban those with legislation.
Yes.
That's one of the pieces of your package this year. You've been unsuccessful repeatedly in that with the General Assembly. Will you try again next year?
Absolutely. And that's when I say I'm frustrated, why I'm frustrated. You know, I bet you, this is a horrible thing to say, I bet, God forbid, if there were a shooting of that kind in Rhode Island, finally the General Assembly would do the right thing. Why do we have to wait for that? Every single one of these mass shootings involves the same kind of weapon. I think 3 years in a row, or maybe even more, I have put in legislation to ban these high-capacity assault weapons. I don't understand why we wouldn't do it. And I'm going to do it again next year, and I'm going to lean on the General Assembly next year, and I'm going to stay at it as long as I'm governor in order to get those weapons banned in Rhode Island. The other thing we need to do, Ted, is Rhode Island, as you know, is one of only 3 or 4 states where we actually allow concealed carry guns in schools. Why? You don't need a gun in school.
Well, people say if the gun is there, they're going to take out the guy, you know, who comes in with a gun, and you're leaving people unarmed in a violent situation.
Yeah, except we know that's not true. I have spoken to law enforcement experts, gun experts, Second Amendment advocates, public safety advocates. They all say the same thing. Guns in schools makes everyone less safe. We have school resource officers in school. They, you know, have a weapon, and that's appropriate. But, you know, 45 other states have figured out a way to ban concealed carry weapons in schools, and we should too. I talk to teachers. I talk to parents. I am a parent. It's a scary thing. So in any event, the short answer is I'm frustrated, I'm angry, and I'm going to stay at it and do everything I can do until our legislature does the right thing, bans these guns, bans guns in schools, and makes Rhode Island safer.
So let's turn to the IGT deal. You've negotiated a proposed 20-year extension of the company's contract. It needs legislative approval. It's been the subject of fierce attacks, I would say, in the weeks since you put it forward. Are you having second thoughts, or do you still support the IGT deal as you negotiated it?
I support it fully. I support it fully. It has been the subject of critique, mostly because Twin River is not happy that they didn't receive it, and so they're spending a lot of money to critique it and hiring lots of lobbyists and running full-page ads. But yes, I do support it, and I want to work with the legislature to, you know, have them pass the enabling legislation so we can get to work and memorialize it in a contract.
Did the uproar catch you by surprise? Did you expect this?
That's a good question. I would say I didn't expect it. You know, Twin River isn't in this business. They have zero experience. They don't make this equipment. They don't run lotteries. They don't have the expertise. So yes, it was surprising to me that they thought that they would have a chance at getting a contract for a business that they're not in. So I would say yes, I was surprised. Having said that, we knew they wanted it, so I wasn't totally surprised. But I guess I'm always surprised at when people feel they're entitled to something that they're totally unqualified to get.
Twin River is another important partner for the state currently in gambling.
Yes.
Do you see this as damaging the state's relationship with Twin River?
They are an important partner. You know, they also have a long-term contract, I think 20, 25 years in their case. You know, no, I don't think so particularly. Look, it certainly doesn't make me think any better of them. I think their ads are dishonest and in some cases deceitful. And it always makes me wonder what kind of an operation they are if they're willing to go to these lengths and tell mistruths in order to get business they're not qualified for. But look, we're professional, and we'll continue to do business with them as long as they continue to perform for us.
One of the questions I've heard from members of the public aren't necessarily Twin River lobbyists. They're just trying to understand what's going on here. They say, well, if the current IGT contract doesn't expire until I think 2023, why is it such an urgent priority for your administration now in 2019 when it seems like there's plenty of time to go through this?
Yeah. So earlier this year, I think January of this year, the CEO of the company came to visit with me and said that the
guy in London, the London CEO?
Italy.
Italy.
Yes. It's
Italy.
Now, right. By the way, that's an important point. For a second, you know, IGT is a local company. You know, was founded here decades ago. Used to be called G-Tech. Locally owned, locally operated. Huge success story, actually. There's only 3 companies in the world that do what they do, and one of them's a local company. But it's now an Italian-owned company, and you know, publicly traded, Italian-owned, and so there isn't necessarily the attachment to Rhode Island that there was 20, 30 years ago when it was just the local company. So in any event, the CEO came to visit with me. It was a great meeting, but he was very clear. He said, Governor, we are a global company. We operate in almost every state in America. We operate all over the world. If we were just going to operate the lottery in Rhode Island, it would be 40, maybe 50 jobs. We have 1,100 jobs here. Average salary, $100,000. And they were thinking, evaluating whether they were going to keep those jobs in Rhode Island. And they asked me if I would consider now beginning the process of doing the contract extension. And I said yes, because that's my job. You know, my job is to, you look out the window, you can look out the window, that window right there, you see the IGT sign, you see the IGT headquarters. I don't want the lights to be turned off of that.
How do you know they weren't bluffing? They're saying, oh, the governor, we're going to scare her, and we're going to get her to give us a great contract for 20 years because she doesn't want to lose those jobs.
Yes. So let me say 2 things. One, you never know. But this is a good deal. In other words, I wouldn't keep these jobs at all costs. I wouldn't say give them whatever they want. In fact, what I said to my team was, negotiate the best contract you can and make sure it's better than the last contract in every possible way. This is a good contract on the face of it. In fact, there are certain parts of it that are better than any other state. $25 million upfront cash payment to the state. A guarantee that they'll keep the games fresh, which we don't have in the current contract. You know, the way it works now is they'll promise to always have the most up-to-date electronics. So like when iPhone comes out with the iPhone 10, if they come out with the new 10, we have to be guaranteed at all times to have at least the 8. You know, certain performance contracts, 1,100 jobs guaranteed for 20 years. Headquarters in Rhode Island, $150 million of capital improvement.
If they're offering such a great deal, what's the harm of going out to a competitive bidding process then? If the deal's that great, they're going to win it.
Yes, if we had done that, then the economic development components wouldn't be on the table.
You couldn't put that into an RFP?
No. No, they wouldn't have done that. And you don't have to listen to me on that. Look at every other contract. If you were just going to do an RFP, as you say, you would just get the gaming contracts. There would be no jobs component to that. But again, I'm not going to apologize for preferring the local company. There's only 3 companies in the world qualified to do this business, and only one of them is the local team. So yes, I want to do business with the local company if we get a good deal. And so I said, let's see if we can get an excellent deal and keep the business local and keep the jobs local. And that's what we've done.
Speaker Mattiello now indicating he may not call a special session this fall on the IGT deal. Seems to be backing off. That would kick the issue into the new year, into 2020. Can you accept that?
I think that would be a mistake because there is risk. You know, the company, he represented to the company that the hearings would happen this fall.
He did.
Yes, absolutely, publicly. He's represented that to me, certainly. He's put a public statement out to that effect. And so if they dilly-dally, it's just risk, Ted. Why take the risk of losing the company? Now, I'm not saying don't short-circuit a public vetting, don't, have hearings, have a full public vetting, absolutely. And we need to work together on this. As the executive branch, I took the lead to negotiate an agreement in principle. Now I want to work with them. They do their process and pass the enabling legislation. What
if they want to change the deal, though? Doesn't IGT think they need to get the governor's deal and they're not looking to change it further?
I would think that, but I can't speak for IGT. I know that they'll accept the deal that's on the table. If some changes were to come out of the session, we would go back to the company and see. The day before the Senate President and Speaker put the legislation in, we all sat right there at that table in my office. I said, this is incredibly important. I had been working on it for months. They had been having meetings with the company.
So they were involved in the discussions before?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Obviously I took the lead. Once I met with the CEO, we got to work right away. I wasn't going to risk losing these jobs. I said, let's get to work and negotiate a good contract. But the Speaker and the Senate President, their teams had met with IGT numerous times as well. And then I hauled everybody into my office, me, Senate President, and the Speaker. I said, is everybody comfortable with this? Are we all on the same page? Yes, yes. The Speaker puts the legislation in with his name. Senate President does. We have a joint press statement saying there'll be hearings in the fall. By the way, that's how government should work, right? We all got together. We all agreed. I did my part. They're going to do their part. And this could work out great. We could have a good lottery deal with good jobs in Rhode Island. And I think it's the right thing to do. Let's show Rhode Island that our government can work and get something done.
The final thing I'd ask you about, the other criticism here, of course, is Don Schweitzer. He's a former chairman of IGT. We both know he's a Democratic power broker. He's your treasurer and therefore raising money for the Democratic Governors Association that you're leading. Have you and Don ever discussed the IGT contract extension?
No, he has not. Obviously, we've discussed the fact that it's happening in the same way that you and I might, but he has not. I've never talked terms with him. He's not been involved.
He hasn't privately lobbied you?
No, not involved in the negotiations. It was my staff dealing with the staff of IGT. He's retired from the company.
Still their lobbyist, though.
He is. I'm glad you brought it up, because I think the facts matter here. He's been involved with the DGA for 30 years. I've never asked him for one penny on behalf of the DGA, ever, nor would I. His company, IGT, has been a donor to the DGA for 20 years. They give as a matter of course every year. I think they probably give to the Republican Governors Association too. Don retired last year from IGT. He has more time on his hands. He's been involved with the DGA forever. It just made sense at that time to say, hey, why don't you get more involved?
In retrospect, was it a mistake, though, knowing with this big thing popping up with a company he's synonymous with?
Well, I would say maybe, but only because it allows this question to happen. In other words, he's been this role before. Like 20 plus years ago, he was the finance chair. He's gonna stay involved with the DGA after I leave. Like, he's a Democrat, as you say, he believes that the world's a better place if you have Democratic governors. He's been doing this long before me, he's gonna do it long after me. And I've never asked his company for money for the DGA.
The interview with the governor was shot by photographer John Villela. When we come back, Eyewitness News political analyst Joe Fleming and WPRI.com reporter Eli Sherman join Ted and me for a political roundtable. Stay with us. You're watching Newsmakers. Welcome back to Newsmakers. I'm Tim White. To my left, Eyewitness News reporter Ted Nesi and WPRI.com enterprise reporter Eli Sherman, and Eyewitness News political analyst Joe Fleming joins me to my right. We have a political roundtable for the second half, and I want to start where we left off with your interview, Ted, with the governor, which is this very public and I would say ugly battle and expensive battle between gaming giant IGT and Twin River. Eli, I'm going to start with you. The average person knows that there is this fight going on between these two big organizations in Rhode Island, and it involves the governor somehow, but I don't think people get the nuances as to what's going on and why it's taking up so much bandwidth in the news. Why should people care?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think beyond the public jockeying of the two companies, it's important for taxpayers to know that this is a big pot of money. The lottery is the third largest revenue source for the state. And I think, if there's less of that to go around, the state will have less money to pay for things like roads and bridges, or they'll have to rely more on things like sales tax and personal income
How much
tax.
revenue are we talking about here?
About $400 million, I think, a year right now, and expected to grow.
And, clearly, this has been going on for weeks and weeks and weeks. We see ads in the Providence Journal. We hear ads on WPRO. Your phone rings. The governor wants to sit down and have a one-on-one with you in her office. She clearly wants to change or affect the narrative here.
Yeah, clearly I think they've let it get away from them in the governor's office on this. It's gotten beaten up publicly.
We've seen that before, haven't we?
We have. This is not the first time for Team Raimondo. And I think they all of a sudden, and it wasn't just me, right? She had an op-ed in the Providence Journal on Sunday. She sat down with me. She was on the radio. They're clearly realizing they had to push her out to make a pro case. They couldn't leave it to IGT to make the case for this deal. And I think, I'm not sure yet whether that is going to work because it's clear the legislators have gotten a lot of cold feet from the last month. You were just talking about that, Joe.
Yep, absolutely. I think the thing that the governor has to keep in mind is simply the General Assembly has to pass this. They are all up for re-election in 2020. Do they want to have an issue of a no-bid contract worth $1 billion going against them? And I would think the Republicans, Democrats running against other Democrats would use that issue. And it could be very effective if it's used correctly. So I think these General Assembly members are going to really take a strong look at this and say, if I vote for this, I may be hurt of my own re-election chance.
So what you're saying is there's politics involved in this?
You think? I think there's a lot of politics, and I think that's why the Speaker's being very careful on what he does.
Do you think they'll come back in the fall, or do you think the Speaker will punt it off to the session in January?
There will definitely be Senate hearings. I tend to still think there will be House hearings, but I would not want to have to bet money at the moment that there will be floor votes this fall on the IGT deal.
But wouldn't it be worse for them if they pushed it off to 2020 when they're that much closer to the election?
Sometimes in politics people just want to buy time and hope something bubbles up and makes things better, even if they're not sure what that is.
Well, we're only about 14, 15 months away from the next election anyway. Election cycle starts right after January, so even if they do this in the fall, it's still going to be a big issue in the next election. The Republicans are not going to let this die if there's no bid contract. There's no question.
And I think that the companies, too, are going to do everything they can leading up to this to make it as sort of divisive as possible, because they're trying to win this in the court of the public, and so we'll see how that.
And you
ends
have to
out.
give Twin River. You have to give them some credit. I mean, Twin River has been a very canny organization under Executive Chairman John Taylor in a tough market with casinos coming online in Massachusetts and all the other challenges they've faced. They've repeatedly won new authorizations for new gambling in Rhode Island from the voters, from the General Assembly, and even here, Twin River's not a technology company. There's no actual reason that you would expect them to be going for this, and yet they've very aggressively sowed real public doubts about this, and now at least opened up possibilities no one would have expected when the governor, Senate president, and speaker came out saying there's a deal for IGT.
And even if they go for bid, IGT can still win it. Doesn't mean they're going to lose it.
All right, I know we got to talk about politics. I'm just going to take a quick break. True or false, Joe Fleming? There is a building in Providence that has its own zip code. True or false?
True.
Is he right?
That's correct. Yeah.
You are correct, sir.
Yeah. Interestingly, this week we were doing an investigation on something else, and we discovered that 02902 is assigned to only one building. Any guesses of what it is?
No idea.
The Providence Journal building.
I was going to just say.
Yeah,
And why do they
have
have Tell people why they have their own zip code.
Well, they're called unique zip codes, and there are actually a couple more. There's one at Brown and one at Providence College, but they are assigned by the USPS for places that historically have had high volumes of mail.
Isn't that fascinating? You can read that on WPRI.com. one of the top stories of the week. All right, back to elections and really election security. I will call it a scary headline that came out of a website, Motherboard, a division of Vice Media. It had a scary nugget about Rhode Island's election system here being particularly problematic.
Yeah, Motherboard, which is a division of Vice News, which people might have heard of, had this heavily technical piece out on Thursday. Basically, these people who are really good with technology figured out how to look through the sort of like deepest corners of the internet and figure out that some of the election voting equipment in different states, including Rhode Island, was connected to the internet far more frequently than officials have acknowledged.
And why is that a problem?
Opens up the possibility they could be penetrated. There could be some sort of a hacker could get in and monkey around with the data.
Yeah.
There is. I believe there's no evidence right now anyone has actually done that, but on the other hand, you don't want to be vulnerable to it in the first place. And this comes after a couple of years where Secretary Gorbea, the Board of Elections, and others have repeatedly argued these systems are safe,
right,
and it's okay that they have internet connections in them.
So what did they tell you? You called election officials. What did they say?
I think that something important to know here is that this issue of them possibly being connected to the internet has been raised before. Common Cause, which is a government watchdog nonprofit, raised it back last year, and so this is high on their minds. I think again it's important to know that they're not saying that they have been hacked. They're just saying that the potential for it to happen is there, and so I think that they'll probably go back to the drawing board on some of these systems and try and figure out what it is that they can do to
Joe,
make them more secure.
we noticed it last year, how fast we got results because
absolutely.
the machines are now beaming them. Remember on election night?
Oh, yeah, we're getting results like 8:15 at night, where years ago it would take us like 45, 50 minutes after the polls closed before we get results. By 9 o'clock, I think we had almost all the results.
Yeah, you and I called the governor's race, I think, like 8:25 because we said, we have such a high percentage of votes in already.
Yeah, it was very simple, and so it does speed things up a lot.
And Joe, real quick here, 2020 looks like it's going to be a pretty big turnout year. Elections in 2016, our last presidential election, Rhode Island saw 470,000 people turn out. That's a pretty high number. It was 475,000 in 2008. Prediction time. How do you see 2020 stack
I think
up?
we'll do at least that, if not a little more. I think there's a lot of Democrats and independents in the state who really don't like Donald Trump, and they're going to be motivated to go out and vote. But Rhode Island always votes heavier on a presidential year than a non-presidential year. Even though the governor's up in the non-presidential year, they really come out. People just like to vote for president. So I expect that to be up there around the 470 again.
All right, I have to make a note on this. A very proud day here at Eyewitness News. Our own Joe Fleming has been accepted into the Pawtucket Hall of Fame. Ted, first and foremost, and I were involved in that, and we can tell you, Joe, that it was unanimous. 12 out of 12 voting members said you should make it into the Hall of Fame. I think Ted and I were both surprised you weren't already in it.
Yeah, we thought you were, and when we found out we weren't, we had to rectify that. In fact, we should note that former Newsmakers host Jack White, someone you knew pretty well, was in the first class of this. You'll be joining good company there.
Yeah, you're in good company.
Thank you very much.
This was, it was 1986, which was the first class.
So 33rd class, I think, of the
guess
Pawtucket
so.
Hall of Fame.
It's a big honor.
Neil
Congratulations,
Steinberg of
Joe.
the Round Foundation and some others, and you're still you haven't lived in Pawtucket day to day for a number of years, but you
No.
said that city's close to your heart.
Very close to my heart. I'm still involved with the Boys and Girls Club in Pawtucket. I taught and was an educator in the city of Pawtucket for 33 years, and I grew up in Pawtucket.
Are you ready for a big speech on November 1st?
Well, we'll see.
We'll have to check his approval rating.
Yeah, we'll poll going into that. Joe Fleming, congratulations
Thank you.
to you,
Thank you very much.
on that. It's a big
Very
honor.
humbled.
Yeah, we're very happy for you.
Thank
All
you.
right, thank you all for watching Newsmakers. On the first half, don't forget we had an interview with Governor Gina Raimondo. Ted Nesi conducted that interview at the State House. It was obviously dominated by the IGT Twin River conversation. If you missed that, you can watch it on WPRI.com. Don't forget to sign up for our podcast through iTunes. For Eli Zip Sherman, Ted Nesi, and Joe Fleming, I'm Tim White. We will see you next week on Newsmakers.